Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. I never thought I'd be sitting in a luxury Miami beach resort feeling this miserable. What was meant to be a memorable family vacation has turned into a nightmare thanks to my sister-in-law Ella, 38 female. I'm here with my wife Raw, 42 female, who I've been married to for 10 wonderful years, along with her elderly parents, 76 male and 70 female, and Ella. 2 days into this trip and I'm already at my wit's end with how Ella is treating me. Raw and I have built a comfortable life together over the past decade. We both hold executive positions at our respective companies, and we've worked hard to reach where we are. Our lifestyle reflects our success. We take at least 3 major vacations every year, plus several weekend getaways to break the monotony of our busy lives. We chose not to have children, which gives us the freedom to travel extensively. For the past couple of years, we've made it a point to include Raw's parents in one of our annual trips. Her father's health has been declining rapidly, and her mother struggles to manage traveling alone with him. This summer's trip held special significance. Raw's father expressed a wish to visit Miami, the city where he and his wife had spent their honeymoon nearly 5 decades ago. There was something in his voice when he mentioned it, a hint of urgency that suggested he feared this might be his last chance to revisit those cherished memories. When he offered to contribute to the expenses, knowing how costly a week in Miami would be, I immediately declined. These people have treated me like their own son for the past decade, and I wanted to do this for them. My financial situation allows me to comfortably cover such expenses, and seeing their joy at returning to Miami was worth every penny. Our trip changed completely when Ella asked to join us. Unlike Raw and me, Ella's financial situation has always been tight. She has 3 school kids and her husband's income barely covers their basic needs. Every time we'd share photos from our travels, she'd comment about how she hasn't been able to afford a proper vacation since her honeymoon. This year, she directly approached us about joining the Miami trip, despite knowing I'd have to cover all her expenses. I agreed. After all, family should help family. From the moment we landed in Miami, something felt off about Ella's behavior. The first red flag appeared just hours after checking into our beach resort. Ella suggested taking a family photo in front of the stunning ocean view. I reached for my phone, ready to set the timer so everyone could be in the picture. That's when she stopped me. "Oh, can you take the picture for us? We want just the 4 of us. Mom, Dad, Raw, and me." Her words hit me like a slap in the face, but I stayed quiet, thinking maybe they wanted one photo of their original family unit. But this wasn't a one-time thing. Ella turned it into the theme of our entire vacation. At every tourist spot, every restaurant, every memorable moment, she'd find a way to exclude me. "Oh, just the 4 of us." Or, "This one's just for family," became her constant thing. I became the designated photographer, forever behind the camera instead of making memories with my wife and in-laws. Even worse, Ella started posting these photos on social media, creating a narrative where I didn't exist in this family vacation. Raw would occasionally step in, insisting I was family too, and my in-laws would invite me to join the photos. But Ella always managed to manipulate the situation until I was back behind the camera. It felt like I was nothing more than a walking ATM and personal photographer for their perfect family reunion. After a long day of walking and sightseeing, I was looking forward to relaxing in the pristine water with its breathtaking ocean view. Just as I was about to step into the pool, Ella struck again. "Can you stay out for a bit? We want a girl's photo. Just Raw, Mom, and me." What started as one innocent-sounding request turned into an hour of me standing at the poolside while Ella started an endless photo shoot. First it was the women, then a siblings photo, then another original family shot. Each time I tried to join them, she'd find another combination that conveniently excluded me. I couldn't help but wonder why she'd even bothered coming on this trip if my presence was such an inconvenience. The boat ride incident the next day was even more blatant. We arrived at the sightseeing spot where they offered serene boat rides along the coast. The boats were designed with 2 rows of 2 seats each, perfect for families of 4, but we were 5. Before anyone could suggest a fair rotation system, Ella jumped in with her plan. She arranged for Raw's parents to sit together in 1 row while she claimed the spot next to Raw in the 2nd row, insisting this setup would be perfect for family photos. I ended up alone in the next boat, sandwiched between complete strangers. They also bought a souvenir photo of their family boat ride. The photo now sits in Ella's social media feed. The souvenir photo from the boat ride became a perfect symbol of my entire vacation experience. Me awkwardly squeezed between strangers, while my wife and her family created perfect memories without me. I couldn't help but notice that in every situation where someone had to be excluded, that someone was always me. Ella never once offered to switch places or take a turn being the odd one out, despite the fact that this entire vacation was happening on my dime. The dinner at the upscale seafood restaurant was also the same. I had spent weeks securing this reservation at one of Miami's most exclusive waterfront restaurants, specifically requesting a prime table with an unobstructed view of the sunset. When we arrived, the hostess led us to a round table for 6, perfectly positioned to catch the golden hour light across the ocean. I had envisioned sharing this romantic moment with Raw, the 2 of us seated together enjoying the view while her parents sat across from us. Ella could have easily taken one of the side seats. After all, she was the last-minute addition to our trip. Instead, before anyone could even pull out a chair, Ella sat next to Raw while her parents naturally took the prime viewing spots. I found myself relegated to the worst possible position, wedged between the busy server station and Raw's parents. With my back to the sunset, I had specifically planned this dinner around. When Raw tried to stand up for me, suggesting we rearrange the seating, Ella's true colors showed. She snapped at her sister, telling Raw to stop being so clingy and reminding everyone that this was a family vacation. The dinner only got worse as the evening progressed. I tried to participate in the conversation, hoping to find some common ground, but Ella had other plans. Every time I attempted to join in, she would deliberately steer the discussion toward childhood memories, high school adventures, and family inside jokes, topics that obviously excluded me. Even when Raw and her parents tried to include me by explaining the context or connecting stories to current events, Ella would immediately interrupt and redirect the conversation. She created an impenetrable wall of shared history that left me feeling like an outsider, looking in at my own dinner table. By the time dessert arrived, I had given up trying to participate. The final insult came during our planned spa day. I had meticulously arranged private suites at the resort's luxury spa, one for Raw and me, another for her parents, and a solo room for Ella. When my father-in-law wasn't feeling well and decided to stay back at the beach, I thought the 4 of us could still enjoy the spa treatments together. But Ella saw another opportunity to exclude me. With a smile, she suggested I should keep her father company instead, insisting they needed a girls' day at the spa. The manipulation was obvious. She was once again pushing me out of an activity I had planned and paid for, using my father-in-law's condition as leverage to make me look selfish if I protested. Surprisingly, the day turned out better than expected, though not in the way I had planned. Sitting with my father-in-law on the beach, we had one of our most genuine conversations ever. He shared stories about his life, offered wisdom from his years of experience, and we connected in a way we never had before. I wanted to tell him about how his younger daughter was treating me, to let out all the frustration that had been building up throughout the trip. But looking at him enjoying the ocean breeze, sharing his memories with such contentment, I couldn't bring myself to burden him with family drama. I had tried discussing this with Raw privately one night in our hotel room. While she acknowledged my hurt feelings, her response left me even more confused. She suggested that perhaps Ella's behavior wasn't intentional, explaining how their childhood had been marked by their father's frequent military deployments. They rarely had proper family vacations together, and now with their father's health declining, Ella might be desperately trying to recreate those missing family moments. Raw's explanation made me question myself. Was I being overly sensitive? Was it wrong of me to expect inclusion just because I was funding the trip? The fact that I was even questioning my right to feel hurt made me realize how deeply Ella's behavior had affected my confidence. Not the a-hole. Ella spent the entire vacation making it crystal clear that she didn't consider OP part of the family. She excluded OP from photos, activities, seating arrangements, conversations, everything. She treated OP like an ATM with legs. Then she had the audacity to expect OP to cover her bill after intentionally cutting OP out for days. No, actions have consequences, and she found that out the hard way. If she wants a family-only experience so badly, she can pay for it herself. OP didn't embarrass her. She embarrassed herself. OP's restraint was honestly impressive. Many people would have confronted her halfway through the trip. OP handled it with quiet, dignified karma. Not the a-hole. OP's wife needs to step up. I'm glad Raw acknowledged your feelings, but she still didn't step up nearly enough. Her sister treated you like a disposable outsider while you were paying for her luxury vacation. That should have been a hard boundary. If the roles were reversed and your sibling treated her this way, I guarantee you'd shut it down immediately. You weren't just disrespected, you were humiliated. Excluding a spouse from a family trip is wildly inappropriate. Raw should have been more assertive the moment it happened. You didn't overreact by separating the bill. Ella invited herself on the trip, treated you like garbage, then assumed she'd get a free ride. She needed the wake-up call. Important detail. Ella wasn't humiliated when she excluded you from photos. She wasn't embarrassed when she treated you like a servant. She wasn't embarrassed when posting a fake family vacation online. She was embarrassed only when she had to face the financial consequences of her own choices. She expected you to fund her lifestyle, validate her ego, and tolerate her disrespect. You didn't punish her. You simply stopped rewarding bad behavior. Let her husband be mad. He should be mad, but at her, not you. She racked up a bill she couldn't afford and assumed someone else would foot it. That's not your burden to carry. Update 1. After sharing my struggle online, the flood of supportive responses helped validate what I had been feeling all along. People pointed out how Ella's pattern of exclusion was too consistent to be accidental, how her actions showed clear intent rather than innocent oversight. Their perspectives helped me see that this wasn't about being entitled to inclusion because I paid. It was about basic respect and recognition as a family member. While my wife tried to rationalize her sister's behavior through the lens of their childhood experiences, the reality was simpler. What Ella was doing wasn't right, regardless of her motivation. By the final days of our Miami trip, the constant exclusion and disrespect had reached a boiling point. The morning before our departure, I finally reached my breaking point. I found a moment alone with Raw in our hotel room and confronted her about her passive stance throughout the trip, but her response was still focused on keeping the peace. She acknowledged seeing Ella's behavior, but insisted that confrontation would only create drama that could spoil what might be one of their father's last family trips. Her words made logical sense, but they felt like another betrayal. Once again, my feelings were being sacrificed for the sake of family harmony. In that moment, something shifted inside me. While I nodded along with Raw's plea to let things go, my mind was already formulating a plan. Ella had spent the entire vacation treating me like an unwanted outsider, while happily enjoying the luxury accommodations and amenities I was providing. She seemed to have forgotten that this entire trip, every meal, every activity, every spa treatment she had indulged in, was happening on my dime. If she wanted to pretend I wasn't part of the family, then perhaps it was time to show her exactly what that meant. On our final morning in Miami, I set my plan in motion. I casually suggested to Raw that she should take her parents to the airport ahead of us, claiming Ella and I would follow later. Raw saw right through my intentions immediately. "I know what you're trying to do," she said quietly. "Sure you know," I replied, "and now you can remain neutral as you had been for the whole trip." Her slight nod was all the acknowledgement I needed. After a week of watching her sister systematically exclude me from every family moment, Raw seemed willing to let karma take its course. Once they left, I approached the front desk with my carefully considered strategy. The hotel's billing system worked in my favor. While the room rates had been prepaid, all additional charges accumulated during the stay were settled at checkout. This included every room service order, every spa treatment, every cocktail by the pool that Ella had freely enjoyed, assuming I would cover it all. I requested the manager separate the bills by suite, spinning a story about tax purposes. The manager didn't even blink at the request. It was a standard enough procedure. As I stood there watching him process the separation, I couldn't help but think about how Ella had never once thought about the cost of her actions, either emotional or financial. That was about to change. After settling the bills for my own room and my in-laws' suite, I waited for the moment of truth. Ra and her parents were already on their way to the airport. They needed extra time due to her father's mobility issues and wheelchair arrangements. That left just Ella and me in the hotel lobby. When the manager called her down to her account, the color drained from Ella's face as she stared at the itemized bill in her hands. The total amount was staggering, probably several months' worth of her usual expenses. Her eyes darted between the bill and my face, confusion turning to panic as reality set in. "You're not covering mine." I maintained my composure. "I've already paid for my family. You can cover for yourself." Ella fumbled with her credit card, her hand shaking slightly as she handed it to the manager. The declined transaction message only confirmed what I already suspected. She'd spent the entire week living far beyond her means, secure in her assumption that I would foot the bill. The manager swiped her card again, but the result was the same. Her credit limit wasn't even close to covering half of what she owed. All those girls-only spa days and exclusive dinners had finally caught up with her, and this time her designated ATM wasn't coming to the rescue. The next 30 minutes in that hotel lobby were pure theater. Ella paced back and forth as she tried to figure out how to handle this unexpected crisis. Every few minutes, she'd throw desperate glances my way, clearly hoping I'd cave and offer to pay. But I kept my position on the lobby's plush couch, outwardly calm while savoring every second of her predicament. I knew I could end her ordeal with a simple swipe of my card, and I would have if she'd simply apologized for her behavior during the trip. But Ella's pride wouldn't let her take that step. Instead, she wanted me to volunteer to help, as if she was entitled to my money, even after a week of treating me like an unwanted intruder. Finally, she made the call she'd been avoiding. I could hear her husband's voice rising through the phone as she explained the situation. The bill she'd racked up amounted to nearly his entire monthly salary, with him demanding to know how she could spend so recklessly. After what felt like an eternity of awkward negotiations, and probably some desperate promises on her part, the money was finally wired to cover the bill. During the cab ride to the airport, Ella sat in silence, probably still processing how her husband would react when she got home. What she didn't know was that her troubles were far from over. As we arrived at the airport, already cutting it close to departure time, she discovered I hadn't completed her flight check-in. While I breezed through priority check-in, she was left standing in the regular line, juggling her luggage, and growing increasingly agitated as she watched the minutes tick by. The final blow came at the gate, when I had quietly arranged business class upgrades for myself, Ra, and her parents. A nice surprise to end their trip comfortably. Ella, however, remained in her original economy seat. The look on her face as she trudged past our spacious business class seats told the whole story. She didn't say a word, but her clenched jaw and rigid posture spoke volumes. For the entire flight, she sat stewing in economy while we enjoyed premium service up front. The moment we landed, Ella's composure finally cracked. She practically ran to her parents at baggage claim, tears streaming down her face as she launched into her version of events. According to her dramatic retelling, I had cruelly abandoned her at the hotel, subjected her to public humiliation, and deliberately excluded her from the flight upgrades. She conveniently left out the part about her week-long campaign to exclude me from every family moment. Her father, already tired from the journey, became visibly distressed as she continued her performance. Even in this moment, she showed no concern for his health, too focused on painting herself as the victim of my supposed cruelty. I maintained my composure through Ella's display, waiting for the right moment to present my side. When I finally spoke, I explained how she had systematically excluded me from every family moment during a vacation I had funded. Each family-only photo, every manipulated seating arrangement, all the deliberately exclusive conversations. I laid them out one by one. The simple logic was clear. If she didn't consider me family enough to include in the memories, why should she expect me to cover her expenses as family? Her performance came to an abrupt halt when her mother intervened. After a week of watching her daughter's behavior, Ra's mom had reached her limit. "Ella, enough," she said firmly. "We don't want to get involved. We noticed you cornering him the whole time. We pitched him to include him, but you had your own plans to sideline him. Now deal with it." But instead of accepting responsibility, Ella lashed out more viciously. Her true colors emerged as she accused me of using money to control the family. Then she turned to Ra. "You partnered with your husband to humiliate your sister, your own blood," she spat. "You'll see what this man is going to do to you. He's going to sleep with another woman right under your nose, and you won't be able to do anything. You're blindsided by his money." The baseless accusation sparked a fierce response from Ra, turning the baggage claim area into a scene from a family drama. The situation might have escalated further, if not for Ra's father. Throughout the trip, he had maintained a dignified silence, observing everything but saying little. "Ella, your brother-in-law has done enough for you. If you can't appreciate it, better keep your mouth shut." The simple statement effectively ended Ella's tirade, though the damage to family relationships was already done. After my father-in-law's final words, a heavy silence fell over the airport terminal. His request to leave immediately was filled with quiet authority, and I quickly helped him to the car. We drove away, leaving Ella standing there alone, her pride preventing her from asking for a ride despite being 70 miles from home. She hadn't brought her own car to the airport, having arrived with us, and I knew the taxi fare would be astronomical. But after a week of her deliberate exclusion, I couldn't find it in myself to care. The drive to my in-laws' house was peaceful. When we arrived, both of them expressed genuine gratitude for the vacation. My father-in-law's hug lasted longer than usual, communicating more than words ever could. That hug validated everything. Ra and I returned home, and initially avoided discussing what had happened, falling back into our normal routines. The topic remained untouched until a few days later, when Ra finally broke the silence. She shared that Ella was facing serious financial consequences. Her husband, furious about having to bail her out, was demanding full repayment. He refused to save her pompous butt, as he put it, leaving Ella struggling to manage both the repayment and her regular credit card bill. While Ra supported my actions, she gently suggested I might have gone too far, but even as she said it, she acknowledged that her sister had needed this wake-up call. Ella had spent years taking advantage of others' generosity while treating them with contempt. The fact that she was finally facing consequences for her actions felt like long overdue justice. When Ra asked if I regretted my decisions, I could honestly say no. Sometimes the most effective lessons come with the highest price tags, and Ella had chosen her own tuition through her behavior. Update on Thanksgiving. After sharing my story online, I received mixed reactions. Some people suggested I was too harsh, that I should have just absorbed the cost to keep the peace. They wanted me to be a doormat, to quietly accept being treated like an outsider while still funding everyone's luxury vacation. But I know my worth, and I refuse to be used that way. I never expected Ella to grovel or become my servant. All I wanted was basic respect and inclusion in the family activities. Even after everything, I would have covered her expenses if she had simply acknowledged her behavior and apologized. But her pride was more important to her than making things right. The truth is, Ella and I were never close. Our relationship consisted entirely of polite greetings at family gatherings when she would visit Ra. We had no real connection or meaningful conversations over the years. Still, when she asked to join the vacation, I agreed to fund her trip without hesitation, simply because she was family. That generosity should have earned at least a basic level of respect, but instead, it seemed to fuel her determination to exclude me even more. Ella's husband was still seething about having to empty his savings to cover her extravagant spending. The bill she had racked up nearly equaled his monthly salary. No working person would be happy to see their hard-earned money vanish because their spouse spent a week playing princess on someone else's supposed dime. But instead of accepting responsibility for her actions, Ella did what she does best. She spun a narrative painting herself as the victim and me as the villain who had deliberately humiliated her. But during Thanksgiving preparations, my mother-in-law had been planning an extra special celebration. knowing it might be one of the last holidays with my father-in-law given his declining health. Ella's husband threw a wrench in the plans by refusing to attend. His reason: he couldn't bear to sit at the same table as someone who would humiliate a financially weaker person. That's when my mother-in-law finally had enough. She sat him down and revealed the full story of Ella's behavior during the Miami trip. "Look at the vacation photos," she told him. "Really look at them." The evidence was right there in Ella's own social media posts. Photo after photo where I had been deliberately excluded, pushed behind the camera, or made to sit apart. The visual record of my systematic exclusion was impossible to deny. My mother-in-law explained how she and my father-in-law had repeatedly tried to include me, only to watch Ella create new ways to push me aside. What made this especially painful was that I had always respected Ella's husband. We weren't close friends, but our interactions at Thanksgiving and other holidays had always been pleasant and respectful. I had never looked down on him for his financial situation. Such thoughts had never even crossed my mind. We were just two men who had married into the same family, trying our best to support our wives and contribute what we could. The fact that Ella had manipulated him into seeing me as some kind of classist villain showed just how far she would go to avoid taking responsibility for her actions. Despite my reservations about attending Thanksgiving dinner after everything that had happened, I went for my father-in-law's sake. Ella and her husband's absence was explained away with a convenient story about visiting his parents. It wasn't until after he retired for the evening that the real story emerged, and it was far uglier than I had imagined. The Miami incident had apparently been the catalyst for a major fight in Ella's marriage. Rather than learning humility from the experience, she had turned her humiliation into ammunition against her husband, constantly degrading him for his income level. She began demanding that he take on a second job on top of his full-time position, despite the fact that she herself only worked part-time, a mere 20 hours a week. When he agreed to look for additional work, it came with a reasonable condition: that he would need to step back from household duties and childcare. This compromise sent Ella into a fury. My mother-in-law shared how Ella's husband had broken down while telling her everything. The expectations being placed on him were staggering. Ella wanted him to work well, over 40 hours a week, while still maintaining his share of domestic responsibilities, all while she maintained her leisurely schedule. The entitled attitude that had been so evident during our Miami vacation was apparently just the tip of the iceberg. The woman who had spent a week racking up expenses she couldn't pay was now berating her hard-working husband for not providing her with a more luxurious lifestyle. My mother-in-law had tried everything to make Ella see reason. She counseled her daughter, defended her son-in-law, and attempted to make Ella understand the unreasonableness of her demands. But it seemed the taste of luxury during our Miami trip had awakened something dangerous in Ella. And the woman who once claimed to be content with simple family vacations was now obsessed with living a lifestyle she hadn't earned. The situation became so concerning that my mother-in-law finally had to deliver a harsh ultimatum. She told Ella point blank that if her behavior led to divorce, she shouldn't expect any support from the family. More importantly, she was warned to keep any marriage troubles away from her father. His health couldn't handle the stress of watching his daughter's marriage implode over her newfound materialism. On our drive home from Thanksgiving dinner, Ra and I reflected on how our well-intentioned invitation had backfired. I remembered a quote I'd seen displayed at the resort: "Once you experience the luxury of a private island, you'd never set foot on a public island." The same principle applied to someone who'd experienced business class after years of economy. There's no going back. We had inadvertently given Ella a glimpse of a lifestyle she couldn't sustain, and now her husband was paying the price. The whole situation left me feeling guilty, not for making her pay her own bills, but for exposing her to a standard of living that had corrupted her perspective so completely. Her husband, a decent man who worked hard to provide for his family, was now being punished for not being able to maintain the luxury she briefly tasted. I could only hope she would come to her senses before she destroyed her marriage and pursuit of a lifestyle she couldn't afford.